Well, let's get some more insight into all the latest now. I'm joined here on set by Oliver Farry from our International Affairs Desk. Oliver, we've got a 2-week ceasefire now. Iran has submitted its 10-point plan. What actually happens now, though?
Well, presumably the negotiations will begin. They're planned for Islamabad on Friday. Each side has its bullet-pointed plan. You just mentioned the Iranian one there. It's the 10 points. The US has a 15-point plan. Neither has been accepted, but they will be discussed over the coming weeks. Tehran had previously rejected the US plan in late March, but it's likely that some of it at least will find its way into a final agreement. As for Iran's plan, it has a shopping list that will not be entirely acceptable to Washington, including the lifting of sanctions on Tehran, continuing Iranian control of the Strait of Hormuz, which will be continuing for the next 2 weeks during that ceasefire, and US military withdrawing from the Middle East. Now, the last one is something that is very, very unlikely to happen. Tehran also envisages charging fees to ships for passage through the strait, $2 million per ship, according to the New York Times, which is quite a coup, given that it was actually free just a few weeks ago to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. That money will be divided between Iran and Oman, and Iran says it will use its share to fund the reconstruction of the country. There's also the thorny issue of Iran's uranium enrichment. Now, speaking to AFP on Tuesday night, Donald Trump said rather confidently that Tehran's uranium would be dealt with perfectly, while Iran says the 10-point plan would require acceptance of enrichment. Now, that incidentally was in its Farsi statement rather than the English one. Whether this will materialize is another matter, but Tehran certainly feels comfortable enough to make that demand.
Yeah, an awful lot still to be hammered out then. I mean, what is the likelihood then of this ceasefire actually meaning the end of the war?
It's a little bit up in the air. I'd be very, very wary of declaring the war over. And not that has prevented Donald Trump from continuing to declare complete victory. Mind you, he's been doing that since the opening days of the war. And strikes did continue between Iran and Israel since the agreement was announced in the early hours of this morning. The ceasefire could well hold for the next few weeks out of pragmatism and expediency, if nothing else. But the two sides, or three sides, because remember, Israel is involved too, may find the demands to be intractable and return to bombing. From a narrowly political point of view, it's in Donald Trump's interests for the war to end. For all his bravado, it's been diplomatically and politically, and you could also probably say economically, a complete disaster for him. And oil prices will come down and he can claim victory. He's already doing that. It's the off-ramp that he was looking for when he was completely unable to get any of his allies to come on board in the war effort. But he and his Republican Party cannot really afford to continue with a war that was already highly unpopular with the American people to begin with, and it will probably affect the Republicans' chances at the midterms all the more so if it were to continue. But of course, there are other factors that may draw the US back in. And remember that there is a separate war being prosecuted by Israel and Lebanon against Iran's proxy, Hezbollah. And Benjamin Netanyahu has confirmed that there will be no ceasefire in that conflict. It's a separate conflict, but ultimately it's not really that separate at all.
And finally, Oliver, I mean, particularly the language over the last 24 hours, 48 hours from Donald Trump. I mean, there's still major questions, aren't there, over his fitness for office?
Yeah, and I think this ceasefire hasn't changed that, certainly not for the Democrats. Several members of Congress over the past 24 hours have called for the 25th Amendment to the Constitution to be invoked. That relates to presidential succession. They've also called for an impeachment. Now, the announcement of the ceasefire hasn't changed things. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said on X that the president must be removed from office, that all of these incidents and plenty more have clearly driven our country past the threshold for impeachment. Now, there have been calls even from within Trump's MAGA movement to remove him, such as from the former Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, the former Fox News host Tucker Carlson, and the far-right conspiracy theorist Alex Jones. There's no disputing Donald Trump's unfitness for office. You could probably have argued 10 years ago before he became president that he was manifestly unfit to be president. But now, whether it's because of cognitive decline, whether it's because of his outrageous statements, including threatening genocide yesterday, it actually just shows that the man should not be president. But he's not going to be removed anytime soon. The congressional Republicans are captive, or actually quite happily complicit, because he serves as a vehicle for their own particular legislative obsessions, and they're happy to allow him to run riot. In a well-ordered universe, Donald Trump would no longer be president, but the Republicans are not even calling Congress back. It's in recess at the moment, which seems incredible. His own flippant use of genocidal language, he's talking more or less as if he's still flogging Trump steaks or Trump university degrees to gullible people on the internet. But it's not simply talking to Iran that he's doing here. It's also setting a very, very dangerous precedent for future office holders. And it seems ridiculous that we're even talking about this, but right now, the numbers or the political will are not there to remove Donald Trump from office.